Hey guys, it's Meg, the literary prepper, here with you again on our last day of February. Yay! Last night we finally got a little bit of rain to, cool us down a little bit, sort of, officially heading into autumn. Unfortunately though, it wasn't enough rain to stop the construction trucks from driving past, so I did try to do this video outside, but it's a little bit too noisy and too glary at the moment. Unfortunately, it's sort of, good lighting, too much noise. What are you gonna do? Today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that is, really important to Australians, particularly if you're living on the eastern side of Australia, but something that I don't believe is spoken about in the media enough, particularly at the moment, seeing as we are getting to crisis point, and maybe that's deliberate. But if you guys haven't done any research or you haven't seen anything in the news concerning the Murray-Darling River Basin, then I suggest that be your homework, because we are getting to the point of, we need to put in a crisis plan. So to bring you up to speed, if you're not familiar with the issue, the Murray-Darling River System is the main river system that runs all the way from Queensland through New South Wales and down through to Victoria, and also sort of a little bit of South Australia. It kind of comes down the map and then just kind of goes blip out the side. So pretty much all of southwestern Queensland is affected. So from, I think it's just north of Toowoomba and then right out west, and then if you follow that straight down all the way through New South Wales, and then sort of pretty much all the way through Victoria as well, and it's just that tiny little chip of South Australia, but it's mostly an East Coast thing rather than a Central Australian thing. The problem is that at the moment there are a number of different companies who, without sort of gaining a whole lot of ground, have tried to bring to justice a whole heap of multinational mega companies that have basically been illegally irrigating. And I don't mean just taking a little bit of water here and there. We're talking about like massive dams, where the goal of these sort of mega conglomerate international companies is to drain the river system so that they can then resell the water back to the smaller farmers in the area, so that once they actually destroy the river system, they'll be okay, because they'll be still making profits, but all the little people in between, they're either going to go broke, or they're going to be at the mercy of these companies who are illegally draining the river dry, so that they can then sell it back to the genuine Australian farmers. It's not only a couple of companies that are doing this, it's probably about half a dozen companies. But every time these independent or government sort of investigation groups try to do something, there's always a mole in the system who stymies them. So they'll get to the point where they have enough to sort of either continue a full-on federal investigation, or they'll have enough to press charges against somebody, and something will happen, and the people involved will be redirected somewhere else, or they'll be told to just let it go, someone else is taking care of it. It will be shuffled off to another department and forgotten about. There's definitely somebody on the inside of whatever government system it is who is trying to protect these people. But that's the way it goes these days. Anywho, so what does that mean for the rest of us who don't have any control over what happens. How do we react to what is happening at the moment? Obviously, as individuals, far away from, where all of this is taking place, we personally can't really do a whole lot unless, there's a vigilante group that forms and decides to blow up the damn pumps or something. But on an individual level, if terrorism is not your cup of tea, then have a look at what the implications of this are going to be. As I said, this massive chunk of the country is affected, which also means that a massive chunk of the population is also going to be affected. So we're talking about predominantly farmers around those areas. So if they don't have water, there's a lot of cotton and grain growers who won't be able to sustain their farms. There will be a lot of meat producing farmers who won't have any water. And then it gets into, down in Victoria, you look at your, sort of New South Wales, you look at your fruit orchards, everything that you look at in the supermarket is going to be affected. So what do we do? These people are not going to be able to produce enough food or anything for us when the system collapses. So we're going to have to import all of our food if the system collapses, because we can't rely on the small green parts of the rest of the country. Northern Territory, South Australia, Western Australia, it's not green enough to try to replicate it on the other side of the country. It's not doable. So we're going to have to buy in all of our food, which means that we're at the mercy of other countries to, first of all, actually trade with us and trade with us at a fair price. But we're also at the mercy of any political unrest that happens around the world. So, if, let's say, the closest, country to us, New Zealand, if they decide that they all of a sudden don't want to trade with us, then we've got to look for, someone else. And then if everyone decides that, it's either, I don't know, if World War III were to break out, for example, and we can't produce our own food anymore because there's nothing there to be able to grow food, and nobody wants to risk sending a trade ship to Australia or sending, an aircraft full of food to Australia, then we're pretty much stuck eating dirt. Try that. It won't really work out for you. Don't try it. So the other side of that is that all of these people who are now living in these towns, they won't have drinking water. So then what do? They've got no jobs, they've got no food, and they've got no water. What are they going to do? They're going to come to the coastal areas where we do have, in their minds, we do have the things that they have just run out of. So we're going to wind up with literally millions of people descending upon coastal cities and coastal towns, trying to find enough food and water to sustain themselves, trying to find jobs to sustain themselves. And we can't do it. We've got all these leftist bloody greenie groups who are jumping up and down saying that we need to bring in more migrants, or we need to, bring in more refugees, and we can't sustain our own people. Just clear cut, black and white, we cannot do it. If these people had two brain cells to spark together, they would realize that, but they don't, and that's why the world is crumbling. Anywho, political rant over. So what do? The crisis is coming. It's already written on the wall. We're looking at, Aboriginal communities out there who, life expectancy for men in some of these places is like 37 years old, because they're basically having to live out of tins and, you know, buy bottled water because they don't have anything out there to live on anymore. So for them, it's already at the point where they're desperate. You know, these people already have nothing. So we need to make sure that, you know, we really do prepare our families for the zombie apocalypse, because it's not that far away for Australians. We need to make sure that we have a really solid supply of our own food and our own water. And by water, that also means separate water for, you know, sanitation and gardening and, you know, just general day-to-day purposes, and a separate stash for drinking, because once these people hit the towns, prices are going to skyrocket, I can guarantee that. But these people are also going to, you know, they're not going to have anywhere to go, so they're going to start to get violent because they're desperate, not because they're bad, but because they're desperate. So prepping in Australia needs to be a topic that we discuss a lot more. You know, people always come back and say, you know, I don't have enough money, it's, you know, beyond me sort of thing. It's not. It's really, really not. Start putting away, you know, a container of water. Reuse, you know, any bottles or containers that you already have. If you buy, you know, a soft drink bottle or, you know, a juice bottle or whatever, refill it with water and stack it somewhere, and that water then can either be filtered for drinking later on, or it can be used for non-drinking water purposes, and you've made a start. Or instead of buying the you know, the fancy $5 juices that you see in the, you know, fridge section at the grocery store, go and buy a 5-litre container of water and pop it in the, you know, bottom of your wardrobe or in your garage or something. Make sure that you guys genuinely do have enough for your family to survive, because we're facing a very, very real food shortage, and it's time to wake up, Australia. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, then if you want proof that something awful is going to happen in Australia very, very shortly, all you have to do is pull up a map and have a look at how many areas will be affected if that Murray-Darling River system does collapse. You want to make sure that you have home defense, to make sure that, you know, if you are under attack by these people, then you're able to either, you know, leave, bug out somewhere, which really, if we're looking at this, that's probably not going to be an option, because we're looking at too many people and it's going to affect everywhere. It's going to be like a human version of a virus pandemic. You're looking at, you know, the population of the entire sort of Western Queensland, Western New South Wales, Western, even Northern Victoria, they're going to descend upon you. And you need to be ready for that. You need to make sure that every inch of spare space that you have is taken up with stored food. And if you buy things in a dried form and store them properly, or if you buy things in a canned form, don't buy dented cans, and don't buy cans that have any rust on them. Make sure that you buy the cleanest, most perfect cans that you can buy, because that will affect the longevity of your food storage. Make sure that you take up every inch of space in your house with food and water, because it's not that far away. On that cheery note, if you guys found this useful, feel free to share, like, subscribe. I haven't quite got Patreon set up, but I'll let you guys know as soon as that's up and running. And yeah, definitely sort of go and have a look at what's happening in that river system, because that's all the proof that you will need, that you and your family need to be prepared now. Just sneak a few extra supplies into your groceries every week. You'll never notice the increase. But yeah, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.